Good morning, YouTube. It is 10 a.m. in the great state of Texas, and we are working with 36 different mica powders in today's video. So, I have had this mica powder kit for about a year, and I haven't gotten into it. The plan was during the summer to do all the different colors of this mica powder kit. So there's 36 colors that come into this box, and they're all different. I just decided, you know what, let's do a variant on colors. And I just never got around to doing it, and then just decided, you know what, let's do something cool, like actually open it and use it. So we're using Total Boat epoxy in today's video. I ordered some more epoxy, however, I have ran out of the typical epoxy that I use, so I'm using my very expensive Total Boat that I've just had sitting around the workshop here. And if you guys have ever worked with Total Boat, it's a really good resin. Not sponsored. One day I will be sponsored if I just keep working, but hopefully one of these days we'll get there. But anyway, I just opened up the box, decided to pick something up at random, and I decided to go with this purple color, obviously, here. And there I am on my phone making YouTube shorts on top of my regular long form content. But anyway, mixed it up, and then we're just going to do our pour here and then put this into the pressure pot. 4.5 hours later, try to get something cool out of it. So since this is the first time I'm using this mica powder, I decided not to do a lid, even though later on in the video I definitely wish I had made a lid with it. But obviously things are a little bit off-centered here. My gloves have pretty much melted, and I need to start using some new ones. I actually have a pair of new gloves, and I just have not used them yet. But getting everything on the lathe, obviously you guys didn't see the whole setup, but got it onto the waist block and then attached the face plate. Everything's going relatively smooth, but just try to get everything nice and even essentially here. And in just classic salty Texas epoxy projects, chip out. The worst chip out not the worst that I've ever had, but obviously it's a pain in the ass having to deal with that. And for some reason, every time I do this, I always get a little bit of chip out. I'm starting to actually not like working with resin, even though some of my best projects are made of resin. But in all honesty, I need to change the head of my carbide tools. That probably would help out tremendously. So, that's part of it. So probably next project, definitely changing the heads out on my epoxy or on my chisels. But anyway, we work through the problem. I end up actually making a happy mistake out of this one. It's gonna have this little oblong lip like a cauldron toward the end here. You can see there in the main body of it that it's actually kind of bent and slanted on the inside, which actually looks pretty cool. So it was like a little happy mistake, even though that chip out, kind of was a little bit aggravating. But here we are making the mortise like we typically will do. Not a whole lot of issues here. I had a little bit of fogging up on my face shield, so I was kind of distracted in where we were when I was doing this actual part here. But it goes relatively smooth. We'll go ahead and just size this up and then get this flipped over. But this part took about 10 seconds, a lot less than it typically does. But taking the screws off there, you can see the mess that we're making here. I'm actually wearing my sweatshirt because it's actually kind of cool in the state of Texas right now, about 60 degrees. But boom, one pop, came off real nice and easy, and then we can actually start the gouging portion of it right about here. So getting everything nice and level here, you can see we're just taking off that superficial glue like we typically do. And the big difference between this project and the other projects was I was concerned about temperature, because epoxy is very weird if you have it and it's cold outside and the epoxy kind of chips out a little bit, but it melted through the chisels relatively easy here. You can see we're getting pretty good shavings off, so we're not getting a bunch of chip out. I was very careful, took deliberate strokes. Took about, I would say, 45 minutes to actually do the gouging portion of it here. But I would say from start to finish, from when I actually started it yesterday, it took about an hour and a half to complete the project. But I've learned over the years, if you just take your time, you're going to have a better result, especially with gouging in the cold, because it doesn't melt as well as it does when it's 120 degrees in the workshop. So something I'll have to get used to here in the winter months in Texas. But all we're doing here is just gouging it out. Trying to get to a nice depth here without any kind of real aggravations, but it goes relatively smooth here, which was surprising that I didn't have a catastrophic chip out when I was gouging. I was totally expecting that to happen, because for some reason, every time I do it, it ends up happening. But I was lucky, and on this one, didn't have a lot of issues here. But here's just a little bit different angle here. trying to get to a nice depth, and I was really concerned about that chip out, but it just never happened. But you You can see there by the shavings, getting really good material worked off. And then you can see my work gloves, which have pretty much disintegrated. But I'm going to use them until I literally can't use them anymore. But everything's going nice and smooth, so don't worry about that. No catastrophic failures. But as I'm getting a little bit deeper into this project, I kind of wish I had made a lid, even though I like the shape of the bowl. I think a lid would have really added a little bit of more flair to it. But maybe in the next one. Again, we're just starting out with this project a little bit, or using these mica powders. So it felt like just every other piece of epoxy that we've done. So not a whole lot of issues with the mica powder. I think it looks really cool, and then we'll start the sanding portion of it here in just a second. But here's all the shavings, and this is probably the worst thing that I hate about working with epoxy is cleaning up all this mess. And I think that takes up more time than actually doing the project. But we're going to get the workbench and the workshop clean, and then we'll start my favorite part, which is sanding, of course. So here we are, just going to go from 320 up to 400, 600, and then we're going to stop at 800. But this part, you know, didn't spend a lot of time sanding. Actually, we spent our normal amount of time, I should say. But when you're not having to do two pieces, a main body and a lid, it kind of saves you a little bit of time. And then, of course, we went through all of the micro meshes here, and that's where you make your money and really polish that epoxy up real nice and neat. But I really like the swirl effect in this one. Again, this is a different mica powder that I've used, but overall really happy with it. I think the colors look really cool, and I think I'm going to end up doing all 36 colors starting in January of 2025, probably just doing one new color every single week, and I think that'll be cool. Make stuff you like to make. But here's the final project. The swirling effect looks really cool. I really like how this looks. Again, I wish I would have made a lid with it, but that swirl kind of effect, I think that looks really, really cool. So anyway, hope you guys liked it. Hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace. All right, so project is done, and this little purple guy is totally cool. I wish I would have made a lid for this thing. It looks really, really cool. The epoxy's held up pretty well. I just wanted to try out that new mica powder that I got, and it looks really cool. It's not as bright or as shiny. You can see we had some problems, obviously, in the beginning of the video. I'm sure I went over that in the commentary. Just the chip out, but it makes like a cool, like a cauldron kind of top. That's why I kind of wish I had a lid for it. I think that would have been really cool looking. But overall, project was pretty easy. Didn't spend a lot of time. I think from the time I got in the garage, it's like an hour and a half. But overall, pretty happy with it. I think what I'm going to do, since I have like 36 of those mica powders, probably what I'm going to do for 2025 is probably do a marathon, because I'm getting, I've got some things in the works that I'm going to need to stack videos. And I think it would just be cool just to do like 1 week a different kind of color, even though it'd kind of be the same thing. Make stuff you like to make. I like making these little bowls, even though they're all the same. Anyway, I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. So anyway, hope you guys liked it. Hope you got something out of it. Cool little purple little bowl. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.